A very good morning, class 6. So, class 6, as you all know, that we are doing the 6th chapter of history, which is new ideas and new questions. And in our yesterday's session, we have discussed about Upanishads. What were Upanishads? About the various thinking that was involved or that was written in Upanishads. Now, for today's session, we will be discussing about Jainism. Okay, so let's begin with the session. So, class, Jainism, the last and 24th Tikaramas of Jainas Vardhamanas Mahavir, also spread his message around this time, that was 2500 years ago. So, class, it was 2500 years ago. The last Jainas, that was known as Mahavir, spread his message around this time to everyone. He was also a Kshatriya prince of Lithuanians, a group that was a part of the Vaji Sangha. So in the last chapter we have learned about the Sanghas. What was Sanghas? So again he was from the Sangha group only, and he was also a Kshatriyas. Furthermore, class, at the age of 30 he left home and went to live in a forest. For 12 years, he led a hard and lonely life. So at the age of 30, he left all the luxurious life of his home and he went straight to the forest in order to meditate, in order to search the questions and the answers. And he led a very hard life and a lonely life, at the end of which he attained enlightenment. But at the end, he was able to attain enlightenment. He was able to attain the knowledge. So he taught a simple doctrine: men and women who wish to know the truth must leave their homes. So class, he believed that those who wanted to know the truth, or those who believed in the truth, can be searched. They all should leave the home. It can be men and it can be women. Those who believe that they need to find the answers, they need to find the truth, they need to leave the home, they need to go to forest, they need to meditate so that they can be enlightened. And it can be a man or it can be a women. Furthermore, class, they must follow very strictly the rules of ahimsa. So they should follow rules of ahimsa, which means not hurting or killing any living beings. So he further told that yes, you should follow the rules of ahimsa, which means not to kill anyone, of any creature of life which is having life. One should not kill. So all beings, said Mahavir, so he should respect all the living forms of the life. Long to live. To all things life is dear. Ordinary people could understand the teachings of Mahavir and his followers. So class, he gave the message to respect each and every life form. Whether it's a small bird or animal, we should always respect them, and we should never ever kill them. We should never hurt anywhere of life. Where life exists, we should not harm. Whether it's a small bird or a big animal, we should respect them and we should not kill them. His teachings were understood by the ordinary people, were able to understand what Mahavir is trying to tell us, what he's trying to convey us, and all those people who follows, because he used the language Prakriti that was used by the common people. There were several forms of Prakriti used in different parts of Sanskrit country and named after the regions in which they were used. So class, even the Prakriti language has a division, and it is divided throughout the countries. In different region where the language is spoken, it is done in their own form. There might be some modifications that is done, but the language will remain the same, and it is there throughout the countries. The name can be different and the region can be different which is used. For example, the Prakriti spoken in Magad was known as Magdi. So if we talk about Magad, The Prakriti language that was spoken in Magad was called as Magadhi. The name is different and the region is different, but the language and the meaning remains the same. Followers of Mahavira who were known as Jainas. So Jainas were those people who used to follow the ideology of Mahavira, had to lead very simple life. So the followers of Mahavira had to live a very simple lives, like begging for food. They had to be absolutely honest and were especially asked not to steal. So they have to be very honest. They can't lie. They were not allowed to lie. Furthermore, they can't cook the food. They need to beg the food and they are not allowed to steal the food. So they were believed to live a very simple life following the ideologies of Mahavira. Also, they had to observe celibacy, and men had to give up everything, including their clothes. So, now if one has to follow the path of Mahavira, he has to leave all the luxury of the life, and they were not even allowed to wear the clothes also. So, you can see that the ideology of Mahavira was very different from Gautam Buddha, and the rules were different. Mahavira believed that one should live the life by begging and should not steal. And one should also leave all the comforts of the life and live a very simple life of not lying and telling the truth. So it was very difficult for most men and women to follow these strict rules. So people during that time felt that it will be very difficult for them to follow these rules. Nevertheless, thousands left their homes to learn and teach this new way of life. So thousands of people were inspired by the ideology of Mahavira and they left their home so that they can teach the new way of life. Many more remained and supported those who became monks, nuns, providing them with food. So many people remained at home and they believe that by serving the monks and as well as the nuns, they are doing something good. So they should take care of the monks as well as they should take care of the nuns to serve the food, and they are serving the food, they are doing their service. So that is the reason they believe to remain at home. So furthermore, class, Jainism was supported mainly by traders, farmers who had to kill insects to protect their crops. So Jainism, the religion of Jainism was basically supported by traders as well as the farmers. So we know about the farmers that in order to protect their crops, they need to kill the insect, and that is the reason they supported Jainism. Found it more difficult to follow the rules. Now class, the farmers as well as the traders found it very difficult because they have to protect the crops from the insects, and they found it very difficult to follow the rules because they believe that these rules were very strict for them. Now over hundreds of years, Jainism spread to different parts of North India and to Gujarat, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. So now talking about the spreading of Jainism class. So from the 100 years, if we count, Jainism has spread to different part of the country, from your North India to your Gujarat, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. Furthermore class, the teachings of Mahavira and his followers was transmitted orally for several centuries. The ideologies or the teachings of Mahavira was transmitted orally. Through oral way, they transmitted his sayings, his teachings, and they were written down in the form in which were presented at available called Vallabhi in Gujarat about 100 years ago. So they were also written down in the form which is presently available in the place that was called Vallabhi and which is there in Gujarat, and it was written about 1500 years ago. So we still have preserved the ideologies, the thinking of Mahavira in a place called Vallabhi, which is there in Gujarat. Now talking about the next topic, that is the Sangha. So class, both the Mahavira and the Buddha felt that only those who left their homes could gain true knowledge. So this is a very true fact that both Mahavir and Buddha left their home, and they believe that only those people who can left their home can get their true knowledge. They arrange for them to stay together in the Sangha. So now class, those people who were inspired by Mahavira and Buddha, so Mahavira as well as Buddha, they arrange places for them to stay so that they can attain the knowledge, and together they stay in a Sangha. Sangha is basically an association of those who left their homes. So Sangha was an association for all those people in search of knowledge, in search of answers, who left their homes. The rules made for the Buddhist Sanghas were written down in a book called the Vinaya Pitaka. So class, certain rules were written down for the Buddhist Sangha, and they were called the Vinaya Pitaka. From this, we know that there were separate branches for men and women. So men and women used to live separately, and there were separate branches of men and women. All men could join the Sangha. However, children had to take the permission of their parents, and slaves of their masters. So class, talking about the children have to take the permission of their parents whether they can join the Sangha or not. And similarly with the slaves, that if a slave want to join a Sangha, he has to take the permission of his master. Okay. Furthermore class, those who worked for the king had to take the permission, and debtors take of the credits. So now talking about class, those people who work for the king, they have to take the permission from the king, and those who are debtors of someone, they have to take the permission from the creditors. Women had to take their husband's permission. So talking about the women's, if they wanted to become a Sangha, they have to take the permission of their husbands. Men and women who joined the Sangha lived a simple life. So the men and the women who join these Sanghas, they have to live a very, very simple life. They meditated for most of the time and went to cities and villages to beg for food during fixed hours. So now class, they used to meditate for hours. For hours they were allowed to meditate, and when they are hungry or when they need to get a food, they have to go to the towns, and the time was fixed that between this time and this time they have to go and beg for the food in the cities, or you can say villages. Now that is why they were known as bhikkhus. The Prakriti worked for beggars, so they were called as bhikkhus, which in Prakriti means your beggars, and bhikkhunis for the women. They taught others and helped one another. Now the aim was them to help the others, so they used to teach others people, and they used to help each other. They also held meetings to settle any query that took place within the Sangha. So class, now the meetings were also being organized if there is any quarrel between each other. So class, those who joined the Sangha included Brahmins, Kshatriyas, merchants, laborers, barbers, coachmen and slaves. Many of them wrote down the teachings of Buddha. Some of them also composed beautiful poems describing their life in the Sangha. So class, many people who joined the Sanghas, they were your Brahmins, Kshatriyas, merchants, laborers, barbers, coachmen and slaves. And many of those people also write down the teachings of the Buddha, and in fact some of them even composed beautiful poems describing their life on Sangha, that how was their life, what all they learned, how they helped. So these all things were written in the Sangha. Okay, so class, please make sure to read page number 62, submit the work on time, and do watch the video. Thank you.